Welcome back, Geico Outkick Studios. Joined now by the man, the myth, the legend, as you hear the walk-up music, Taylor Swift playing melodically in the background. That is Petros Papadakis' walk-up music. We are here in the Geico Outkick Studios getting ready for him. Petros, first of all, the Dodgers begin their quest to win the World Series tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. How much of a enjoyable experience was the 3 straight wins of the Dodgers at the expense of my poor 10-year-old son's Atlanta Braves, the team that has been adopted by the Travis family household?
Dan, I got a couple things to get to here. A, I understand the Travis family loving the Braves, or at least one of you guys, because the Braves, in so many ways, long before the Marlins or the Rays, which are going to be in the World Series, obviously, as they used to be the Devil Rays.
That was offensive, by the way. That was one of the first mascot names that had to be changed for offensiveness.
It's the devil.
Yeah,
devils
right. I mean, it's devils. Devils are serious stuff.
Yeah, Satan, Beelzebub.
Yes,
but the Braves are really the team of the South. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. The whole TBS thing and Ted Turner, and they were on nationally. Like, there's people in California that love the Braves. They were on
WTBS, baby. Back in the day, you could always watch them on the Superstation.
I remember hearing Harry Carey on WGN for the first time when I was homesick from school one day, and I was like, my God, this guy's drunk. This guy calling the game. I was like 9 years old, and I was right.
Yes.
It was amazing. So people love the Braves from all over the country because of that national deal, and they're a fun franchise. There's no doubt about it. And it was a great series back and forth. And the Dodgers, they got a lot of pressure on them, a great deal of pressure, because they're just running on a blade. Nothing less than a World Series championship will satisfy the fan base, and they went down 3-1. So people were absolutely freaking out. We call it the Panic Brothers on our show, and we play all the old car alarms from the 90s and try to frighten people. I believe you would call it fear porn.
Yes.
But I do, before I forget, I have to give you a shout-out. I was walking in my neighborhood, which, it's an election year, and there's a pandemic, so you just don't know what you're going to run into.
No doubt.
And, every house has a different sign, whether it's a local city thing or a council thing or a Trump sign or a Biden sign or a science is real sign and, just a hate does not live here sign or, giant American flag, military house. Like, it's just a minefield.
Yes.
And a guy stopped me in the middle of the street 2 days ago, and he said, Petros, and I was like, oh, no, this guy's. And he said, I sit in my car every morning and I listen to you on Outkick with Clay Travis.
Oh,
my
that's
name
awesome.
My name is Steve the Lawyer. And I was like, oh, my God. God bless you, Steve the Lawyer. And he was out there doing his own lawn like a real man, which I am not, obviously. And I just had to say, and he was very, very impressed with you as a broadcaster.
Clearly has great talent, great eye for talent, Steve, the Lawyer, who was shouting you out. I mean, I've always been impressed with Steve's acumen.
Yeah, well, he had some college-age daughters that came out, and one of them maybe graduated. One of them from Michigan State. The other one, I don't remember which college. But, just lovely people. And I thought that they were going to scream at me for not wearing a mask or, even though I try to stay away from people. But I just, I'm a mouth breather, Clay, and it's hard for me.
Yes.
I wear a mask, in the store and at work and all the places I'm supposed to. But he didn't yell at me at all. And he didn't know anything about me other than Outkick, which was pretty great.
This is funny that you mentioned that because, one, I mean, that's all – for what we do, I mean, we talk to a lot of people, but you know this, and a lot of people out there listening may not. There's not anybody around while we're talking, right? So, I mean, conceptually, and I know you do your road show every summer, and it's wildly successful all over L.A., and you guys are out and about, and it is fun to be able to do live shows. But a lot of what you do for radio, even though it's a public forum and event, is very not public, right? So it is always great to hear from people out there who are listening, and you can meet them and they might recognize your voice or they recognize you, and they feel like they're connected to you because we talk to them in their car, we talk to them in their house while they're getting ready, whatever it is. And it's funny you mentioned that, and it's always gratifying. Joel was on the show last week, I think, and he was like, "Hey, he said, I was going through LAX getting ready for going on the road to call a game." And he said, when I gave the guy my ID and he looked at it, he was like, "Oh, I know you. I love the show." And Joel was like, "Oh, yeah, which show?" And he's like, "Oh, you go on with Clay Travis. I love listening to that early in the morning." And Joel was like, "I also call the Fox Lead college football game, which millions of people watch," and he associated me not with that, but he recognized my name from the radio show. And you hear that, I'm sure, from guests and also from other people. And anyway, that's just it's nice.
No one ever recognizes me or talks to me about it.
They know your voice. I remember when I first started doing radio. That was what I would get. That was surprising. Like you'd be in line at I don't know, getting a hamburger or something, and when you walked up and they heard your voice, they're like, "Oh my God!" It's like an alarm bell goes off in their head because they're used to hearing you. They may not recognize you necessarily.
There's two schools of thought, in the world of television. People say, and you do kind of daily TV, and maybe you'll relate with this. In the world of television, they say that every day is just kind of a wash, and you need to figure out big events and breaking news. And if you can hit a home run in those two, the other days just kind of go by the wayside. I've always felt like it was sort of the opposite in radio, because the everyday is people's lives. It's your accompaniment to whatever they're doing. And sometimes you have to say the same thing 20 times or play a sound drop 5 times because, people miss it. They're putting on their seatbelt. They're screaming at somebody in another car. They're, running into the store and getting a slushie.
Their kids are yelling in the back seat, and they're like, "Hey, shut up. I'm trying to hear this."
Right.
Yes.
So it's a very, and I take your point. I've done radio now for 19 years, and people, they have a personal relationship with you.
Yes.
As the host, and they know you because it's kind of hard to hide who you are for 3-4 hours a day on the radio. If people listen to you every day, they actually know you really well. So it is an interesting thing. So I stood there and talked to that guy for like 25 minutes and was late to something and wasn't very popular around here because of it. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about Steve, the lawyer.
Well, I appreciate that. So let's talk about the Dodgers of L.A. They are now into the postseason. I know we've talked a lot about the Dodgers over the years on this show, and thanks you for always coming on Tuesdays. They've been close. They haven't been able to grab the proverbial brass ring of being able to win the World Series. They are big favorites in this series against the Rays. Does it feel like this is their year? I mean, the Mookie Betts plays 3 different spectacular catches. Cody Bellinger goes yard. I know he then threw his shoulder out celebrating, which seems like one of the all-time meathead moves. If you knew you had a weak shoulder, maybe don't celebrate in that form or fashion. But it just feels like their year now that they've come back from basically dead as a season.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it. It's either win it all or everybody wants everybody fired. You can't imagine the rhetoric going on about Dave Roberts and Kershaw and Kenley Jansen. And hey, it's been a rocky road. And
Clayton Kershaw. I mean, sorry to cut you off, but his career is so star-crossed. It seemed like he was done for when they lost that game to go down 3-1, and now he's starting tonight.
Yeah, and it really is interesting, but at the same time, it's sort of a movie we've seen before. We've seen this be the best team. We've seen them win 8 straight division titles. We've seen a lot of great playoff heroics and ups and downs. And this year it feels more do or die than ever. But I agree with you. After seeing them come back from 3-1 and start to exploit a team and get to their bullpen and capitalize on their mistakes that the Braves made many when you listen to the baseball experts, especially on the bases.
No doubt.
You start to have you start to have a lot of belief. And Mookie Betts, that's what everybody was saying when the playoffs started. And it has been a long road for the Dodgers, and they are in a bubble. And I think you saw a lot of that emotion last night just from the feeling of getting over the hump from the team. And I think they feel a tremendous amount of pressure, most of all Dave Roberts. And I think overall, after seeing that comeback and knowing that they're far and away supposed to be the best team in baseball this year, you have to think optimistically. But this is the third World Series in 4 years that they've been to, and you know how the last two went since they've been on AM 570 LA Sports, your Los Angeles affiliate. And everybody talks about 1988, and that being the last year, obviously, the Dodgers won a world championship. And that year, the Dodgers were a lot like the Rays, kind of an underdog, a scrappy team with a hardcore pitcher like Oral Hershiser as a leader. And the
everybody expected them to lose to the A's.
Yeah, the A's were the Dodgers. I mean, the A's were the Bash brothers, Dennis Eckersley, Canseco, Mark McGwire. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there. But I would imagine the Dodgers would be favored, and they'll all get skewered like souvlakia in Greece if they don't win it.
We're talking to Petros Papadakis, AM 570 LA Sports, as he just mentioned, the Dodgers affiliate. So let's dive into to the big picture here. I love there being crowds present again. They're playing down in Arlington, Dallas area. You've talked about for a long time how you're looking forward to fans being able to be back in Chavez Ravine. The Dodgers are taking over this stadium. The cost for tickets have skyrocketed. There are probably people listening to us right now, maybe, it wouldn't shock me at all, driving to LAX right now to get on an airplane to fly to Dallas so they can go watch the Dodgers play. They're not allowed to get in their car and drive across to L.A., but they can drive to LAX, get on a plane. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? But I don't know that there's going to be anybody who is a Rays fan in this stadium. It's all going to be Dodger fans.
And the parking lot at Chavez Ravine, which is ironically, well, maybe it's not irony, but it's still owned by Frank McCourt, the guy that baseball ran out of a job,
yes.
the ex-owner.
It's like the best business ever, right, for what he pays. I've been in that parking lot. He's just making a mint on that.
Yeah, you have to be a billy goat to move around it, and none of the numbers are sequential, but we love it for what it is. But they've set up like a drive-in theater out there.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest parties in LA.
That does sound pretty fun, actually. I mean, if you have kids especially, or you're just looking for a cool social event, that does sound like a pretty fun idea.
Yeah, and I know there were people giving away contests, not us, but there were people flying people out to Dallas and going out to the NLCS. So
that does seem kind of crazy, right? I mean, that you can get on a plane and go to Dallas and go to the game, but you can't drive in your car and go watch it in the main Dodger Stadium.
Well, it's just part of what this whole thing that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a football game on Saturday night, and
that's right.
The East Coast, it'll be San Jose State hosting Air Force at 7:30 Pacific. Let's go, Clay. Stay up late for P. Only till 10:30 your time. You'll be fine.
Are you excited, by the way, to get back in the booth like that?
Yeah, that's my job, and
yep.
The kids are going to play, and it's my job to call the game and try to celebrate the kids and give them an honest call and enjoy college football for what it is. Try not to take myself too seriously. That's our style. I'm going to do a bunch of Mountain West games, it seems, in the first couple weeks. I get to know a new conference, and I'm looking forward to it. I couldn't be more excited. I hope I pass my COVID test at Fox.
I know that feeling. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so we're getting started, but at the same time, like all of these coaches that I've talked to this week, and it's not their fault, but they've said things like, well, we got to do what's best for the kids and health-wise. If they were a coach at some other conference, they'd be saying something completely different. They'd be getting ready to play Middle Tennessee or something. You know how it is. So it's interesting. Everybody kind of understands, and I think I've used this before, the regional rhetoric that's involved, that some things that go some places just don't go in others. I mean, you look at the game I'm doing, it's a Mountain West game. A lot of people might not have a bunch of interest in it, but San Jose State's been able to practice for 10 days.
Yep.
And they had to go off campus to practice for 10 days in a Humboldt Humboldt State, way up in the Redwoods, the lost coast of California, because they're, like I am, in one of the most locked down counties in the country, up in the Santa Clara, San Jose area.
Yeah.
So, and Air Force, they've been practicing every day since August.
Yep.
They run an option. I mean, that's a tough, and it's regional, and it's a tough balance. But I commend everybody for just picking up and dusting themselves off and getting after it. Whatever the incongruities are.
Outstanding stuff as always, Petros Papadakis. We will talk to you next week. Hopefully the Dodgers will be making a serious run at the first title since '88 by the time we talk next.
Let's go Dodgers, Clay. I know you're excited about the boys in blue. Come on.
I would like to see the Dodgers win it now that they've eliminated the Braves because I have met a lot of people who are pretty fantastic in L.A., and everybody seems to root for the Dodgers, so I'd like for them to be happy. I really would. Appreciate the time, my man, and we'll talk to you next week.
City would be alive with pleasure, like a Newport cigarette.
There you go. What a line.